Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. Firstly, I'd just like to say a big thank you to Abby for this fantastic event. It's a great opportunity for language learners, and I'm sure that everybody will take away some really good ideas from this conference. So, as you can see, my talk is all about the fluency puzzle. 4 things that you need to communicate in English confidently. And this is something that I've been thinking about for many years as a language learner and as a language teacher. So let's get started. What we'll explore. So the first thing we're going to look at are some of the reasons that we feel stuck or frustrated when we learn a language, and why it's actually not our fault. And the second thing that we're going to look at are the 4 pieces of the fluency puzzle, and why I believe that we need all 4. And finally, some practical tips on how to learn English smarter and what you can do to start doing that right now. So I hope you find this useful. And I need to go forwards, not backwards. First, I'd just like to very quickly introduce myself for anybody who doesn't know me. So my name is Lisa, and I'm originally from the UK, but I've spent many years now in Spain teaching English. And I've been here for nearly 25 years. So yes, but I do like to say that my home is the world, because I do love traveling and exploring other cultures. So I started my life as a French teacher in the UK, and then I moved to Spain and became an English teacher. And I spent a long time in schools and in language academies teaching English to adults and children. And about 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, I qualified as a neuro-language coach and began language coaching online. And that's when I created Your English Self, which is my community for English learners who want to learn English in a more effective and productive way. So some of the things that I love, my passions, are language and culture, the brain. When I qualified as a neuro-language coach, I became fascinated by the brain and how it likes to learn. I also love yoga, drinking tea, eating chocolate, and my pets. You can see them here in the picture, Sunny and Django. Unfortunately, there are a few things that drive me a little crazy. One of them being education systems. I've spent many years working in different education systems, and yes, finding it quite frustrating sometimes. I hate wasting time. I hate unpunctuality, and I'm a very tidy and organized person. So I don't like mess. And unfortunately, my family are a little messy. So just a few things about me to introduce myself. But let's get on to the important things. Why do we feel stuck or frustrated when we learn a language? Now, these are some of the reasons that that my students have given me over the years. But first of all, let's make sure we understand the definition of stuck and frustrated. So when we feel stuck, we feel like we're unable to move or to change a situation or a way of thinking. We feel like we can't make any progress. And often this makes us feel frustrated. So we feel annoyed or less confident because we can't get the results that we're looking for. So some of the reasons that this happens, I'm going to share with you in a moment. But first, I recommend that you pause the video and think about yourself for a moment. Have you ever felt stuck or frustrated? And what were the reasons for this? I mean, when you're learning a language. So pause the video, think about this, and then come back and I will share my ideas with you. Okay, so I hope you've thought about why it might have happened to you. And these are some of the things that students have shared with me, and some of the things that have happened to me as a language learner. So maybe it's because you invested time and money and you feel like you're not making progress. Maybe you don't have a regular study routine. Maybe you feel that the material in the textbooks is boring or irrelevant. Maybe you don't know where to find the best resources for your level or for things that you're interested in. Maybe you feel stressed, anxious, embarrassed when you speak. Maybe you compare yourself to others. This is a very common one. Maybe you just don't have enough opportunities to practice. Maybe you can't find the time for English in your busy life. And I have to say, number 8 is one that is repeated very frequently, and one that I can say that has happened to me as a language learner. So, why is this not your fault? I believe that there's one big problem. And I think that this problem is that a lot of courses and curriculums and education systems only focus on one piece of the fluency puzzle. And that piece of the fluency puzzle, focusing on that piece of the fluency puzzle, means that progress is limited. We feel stuck and frustrated as a result. This can make us feel unmotivated. And if, in the worst case scenario, we are very unmotivated, then we give up and we stop learning the language. So the piece of the fluency puzzle that we focus on is usually the language, vocabulary, the grammar, and if we're lucky, the pronunciation. This is usually what you will find teachers concentrating on in the classroom. I invite you to think about your experience at school. What did you do in your English class? Or if you didn't study English at school, if you studied a different language, what did you do in that class? What did you focus on? Did you focus on the vocabulary, on the grammar, or were you lucky? Did you focus on other things too? So I recommend that you pause the video again and think about your experience as a language learner. So this is what happened to me at school. And this is what I see happening still in language classrooms around the world. Firstly, the teacher transfers their knowledge, what they know about the language. The students study that or not. And then they reproduce it. And quite often they reproduce it to do an exam. And then what happens is they usually forget it. So when the exam has finished, all that information that they studied, all that vocabulary, all those grammar rules, they tend to forget a lot of them. So I don't know if this has happened to you or it sounds familiar, but this definitely happened to me at school. Now, not to worry, because I believe that there is a better way of doing things. And I call this the fluency puzzle. And I think that there are 4 pieces which make up the fluency puzzle. And that's what we're going to look at now. So language is important, of course. We can't learn a language, we can't become fluent in a language without vocabulary, grammar, and working on pronunciation. But I believe that this is just one piece of the fluency puzzle. So let's have a look. What are the other 3 pieces that we're missing? Okay, the first thing that I would like to talk about is an action plan, or some people call this a roadmap. So knowing what we need to do to get where we want to go and having that clear. I think it's very important to set personal goals. What are your intentions? What are your objectives when you're learning a language? We all have different reasons and motivation for learning a language. And it's very important to have that clear in our minds because it helps us to focus. So first step is think, why are you learning English? And what are your goals? What are your goals to get there? Also, what strategies are you going to use? And I very much recommend using evidence-based strategies. Strategies that we know work because there is research. And there are lots and lots of strategies which are very effective for learning languages. So I recommend exploring this and testing and trying out strategies to see if they work for you. Also, we need to think about our actions. So what are we specifically going to do to achieve our goals? What activities are we going to do? What resources are we going to use? What materials are we going to use? When you're thinking about all of these things, you need to think about what you enjoy doing. So if you're not interested in football, then you're not going to read articles about football. But if you're super interested in cooking, for example, then a good idea would be to look for articles, web pages, podcasts, blogs about cooking in English. So having an action plan, having a roadmap is the first step. It will help us to manage our time better, to be more committed and disciplined, and to monitor and evaluate our progress. So we will be able to see things that we can do, things that we can't do, things that we need to do, things that we need to focus on. It will help us to plan our future learning and help us stay motivated. So very, very important. The first step before language is to have a clear roadmap or a clear action plan. Then, when we have our roadmap and we know where we're going and how we're going to get there, another thing we need to consider is our mindset and our motivation. Now, this is something that we don't see often enough in the classroom. As I said, the focus is usually on the language. Maybe in some classrooms, you may see people, teachers helping students to set goals. But I think less frequently, we explore ourselves. And this is very important for learning to happen, good learning to happen. We need to be in the correct place in our mind. We need to be clear about what we're feeling. So we need to identify our feelings and our emotions and recognize when we feel nervous or we feel anxious or we feel stressed, and to know how to help ourselves to improve the situation. We also need to be able to recognize our strengths and our challenges. So what do we do well? What do we need to focus on? What do we need to improve? How can our strengths, how can they help us to improve what we don't do so well at the moment? And very important is recognizing our limiting beliefs. So the kinds of things we tell ourselves which hold us back and stop us from doing things. So, for example, limiting beliefs could be things like, I don't have time. Now, this is a very common one, and one that I have had, and we'll find if we explore this, if language learning is a priority, we can find the time, but we tell ourselves that we don't have the time, either because it's not a priority or because there's something which is more of a priority at that moment. So we have things like, I don't have time, I'm not a language learner, I've never been able to learn a language, everybody is much better than me, I can't learn vocabulary, I don't have a good memory. All of these are limiting beliefs, and they are things that if we explore them in more detail, we can actually start to delete these limiting beliefs and replace them with more positive thoughts, which help us to take action. So I believe that learning a language and becoming more fluent is not just focusing on the language and not working only on the vocabulary, the grammar, the pronunciation. It's working on ourselves and what we believe about language learning and what we believe about ourselves. If we do this, we can replace a lot of negative talk with more positive self-talk. And as I said, this will help us to take action. It will help our self-esteem, okay, how we see ourselves, what we believe we can do. And our resilience. So when things get difficult, when things are challenging, if we explore our mindset and our motivation and we work on our limiting beliefs, then we become more resilient. When there's a problem, we are more, we have the resources to try again and again and to not give up. And it helps us to have a growth mindset, to see that anything is possible with the right mindset. Our intelligence is not fixed, is not I can do this or I can't do this. It's a case of I can't do this yet, but with work and effort, then I will be able to do this. A growth mindset is about facing challenges when something is difficult, trying. If you fail, if you make a mistake, seeing this as a learning opportunity, not something to be embarrassed about. So about taking risks, about using those opportunities to learn from. And you will see that the more mistakes we make, the more we learn. And all of this will help us to be more confident. So that's 3 pieces of the fluency puzzle. Now let's go to our final piece of the fluency puzzle, which is community. And I am a huge fan of community for learning, connecting with other people, sharing learning, and learning from and with others. A community is a safe space to experiment and to practice, to make those mistakes that I was talking about. Making mistakes is essential to learn a language. We can't learn without making mistakes. And having a safe place to make those mistakes is really, really important. A community provides a support network. In the community, we are all fans of each other. We all encourage each other. So if you're having problems, if you're feeling frustrated, you can share those experiences, and the other learners in the community will share their experiences, and we all help each other. And being in a community provides more opportunities for learning. So quite often I find sometimes my students are reluctant to join a community because they feel safe with me, just having classes one-to-one. But then they try the community and they join my group programs, and they never look back. Because they realize that everything that I've told them is true. We can learn so much more from other language learners than we can learn from just having our teacher. And I'd like to share this quote from one of my favorite educators who is no longer with us, unfortunately, Sir Ken Robinson, who said, what we learn from and with each other. We don't live in a vacuum. It's important that we see that learning is social, cultural, as well as personal. And I couldn't agree more with this quote. So, which parts do you focus on? Again, I recommend that you pause the video and just have a quick think about the 4 different pieces of the fluency puzzle. When you're learning English, which parts do you usually focus on? Okay, so we've explored the fluency puzzle, the 4 pieces which I believe are important for good or great learning to happen. And to end my talk, I'd just like to share how we can learn English smarter, incorporating the fluency puzzle. So, focusing on all 4 pieces of the fluency puzzle. Learning vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation, of course. I don't deny that this is essential, but it doesn't stop there. Creating an action plan, okay? Having your roadmap, knowing where you're going and how you're going to get there. Prioritizing. What do you need? What's essential to reach your goals? What can you leave for a different moment, for later? Using strategies that work, and just because they are strategies that work, maybe they're not the best strategies for you. So finding strategies that work, that science, that evidence, that research says works, and then trying them out and testing them and seeing if it's a good strategy for you to use. Practicing. Practice, practice, practice. And a fantastic way to practice is connecting with other learners and sharing. And believing in yourself, believing it's possible. All of those limiting beliefs, saying goodbye to them, and having a growth mindset. And finally, welcoming the adventure. Being prepared to see language learning as an adventure, because it really is. Taking risks, trying things out, experimenting. What doesn't work, it doesn't matter. By finding out what doesn't work, you can find out what does work. And taking risks leads to better learning. So that's my advice. And I would just like to say, if you like what you've heard, if it's something that you think you would like to find out more about, then you can sign up for my emails, which I call yes mails, your English self mails. I usually send them about once every 2 weeks, sometimes a little more regularly if I have something interesting to share with you. And I will send you tips and strategies for learning languages. I will share my links to my new blog posts. I will tell you about events which I'm organizing. I do a regular Ask Anything session once a month, which is free for anybody to come along and is an informal chat. We share questions, struggles, frustrations about learning English, and generally just have a good time together. I also do workshops, monthly, bi-monthly sometimes, focusing on different parts of the fluency puzzle and helping you to put those into practice. And I also send you more ways that I can help you. Sometimes I run programs, group coaching programs, and I actually have a very exciting new project which I'm working on now for September, which if you sign up for my emails, you will find out about also. And so there's a link there to sign up. And if you download my the free mini guide with the 10 secrets to fluency, or if you get the free access to one of my Learn Smarter workshops, then you will automatically be added to my list, so you don't need to sign up. And I would love to contact with you. So there are various ways you can contact me. You can contact me by email. You can come along to my website. I'm also on Instagram and on Facebook. So you can find me in any of those places, and it would be great to connect. And that's it. Thanks for listening. I hope that there is something useful that you can take away from this talk, and that it's maybe made you think about some of the things you can do differently to help you make more progress and to improve your fluency. And I'll just end by sharing one of my favorite quotes by Richard Branson, who is a British millionaire who didn't do very well at school, by the way. He says that you don't learn to walk by following rules. You learn by doing and by falling over. And that's what I encourage all of you to do. Just give it a go, fall over as many times as you need to, get back up again, and enjoy the adventure. And thank you for listening. Bye-bye.